You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, episode number 57. Today, I speak with mom, artist, and blogger Shawna Wright on how God can be trusted when focusing on financial peace. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Hello, Shawna, and welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I am so glad that you are here with us. So the first thing that I do ask the guest is to say something interesting about them. You live an interesting life already. I love what you do, but can you tell us something wild and crazy?
Wild and crazy. I don't know how wild and crazy, but I do love flying with my husband, who is he's building his fourth airplane, and we'll be getting to fly in that probably this summer. And I'm not scared of heights. I'm not scared of flying. I'm not scared of any of that. I love flying with him. So
that's awesome.
Some people think that's crazy, but
I don't think it's crazy, but I think it sounds really interesting. I'm up for it. That's really cool. Okay, so can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm a mom of two kids that flew off already, and I became, I don't know why the nerves are hitting me right now, but we'll get through this. I'm sorry.
No worries. Take it easy.
So, I have two girls that I homeschooled, and they are grown and married and have a granddaughter that's 3 years old. And when our youngest was finishing school, I just got a little, I was asking God what to do for something to do for him, and he gave me the ministry of painting. So there's the nutshell of that.
Yes, and that is how I found you over social media. I think that one of the things that Facebook is good about is showing us things that we're interested in, and I am interested in art, and there you are. So I don't know exactly how that happened, but I know I reached out to you because of your artwork. So we're going to talk about that in another episode, which I'm super excited about. But for right now, we're going to talk about how God can be trusted when we're focusing on financial peace. And that is something that a lot of people don't have right now. Maybe they don't have it at any point in time. I mean, some of us are very secure in our finances, but a lot of times people struggle. It is a big issue that comes between marriages. And
Huge.
yeah. And I know in the last couple of years, people have found themselves in financial places that they never expected to be. So how can we stay focused on the Lord and believe that we can have this financial peace when we're in the midst of struggling to just make sure that we pay our bills or to keep a roof over our heads?
Well, I guess it'll have to just go back to my experience. And my husband and I are self-employed. He's has a cabinet shop, and we started our own business. Our first daughter, I was pregnant with her just months after starting our business. So, and she's turning 26. So that was, a jump of faith. We were young. He was only 24, and I was, just 3 years younger. And we jumped out and in faith started our own business. Well, doing that, if you've ever been self-employed, you'll know and you're self-employed and you're a Christian, you know that it's a great opportunity to learn to trust God.
Mhm.
And not only did we do that, within 3 years of starting our own business, the whole economy in our area crashed because we were up in northern British Columbia and a logging industry was the main industry, and it closed. So we were this was literally the documented unemployment rate was 95% for our area.
Wow.
So nobody's wanting to buy kitchens when you are when they're not working, right?
Right.
We had just built our own house and had a brand new baby, and it was just crazy times. So what do you do? So you have to hang on. And it was a huge faith building time for us, huge. And I have multiple stories. I think the biggest story is just that how God provided one day at a time and taught us that he will trust you. You can trust him. And, like the manna, one day at a time they were given it, and the birds, he feeds them one day at a time. And I remember this one time because of our house, we had just built a house. Our kids were babies still. And I had to go to the bank and tell them that I couldn't make the mortgage. And that was very hard to do because it was a personal friend, small town. Everybody knows everybody. He was a church member of our church, and he put much faith in us that we would be able to handle the payments. And I had to walk in there and tell him I had no money. What am I going to do? And I was teared up. I mean, emotional, of course. And he said, "Oh, it's okay." Well, he said, he comforted me and I left. Well, as soon as I got home, we got a phone call, and my husband was asked to come measure for a kitchen. And not only did they measure for the kitchen, he went and they gave us not only the down payment for the kitchen that we required, they paid for the entire kitchen within 2 hours of me going to the bank. So I turned around and walked back into the bank with the money. And he I think God did it for his faith too.
Yeah.
But God just goes to the last minute. We have never missed a payment of any sort, of mortgage or anything, with so many things. Even my husband cut all the fingers off on his right hand. And that's our income. How do you work, And God provided day by day by day, even through that. So we have so many stories. I'll have to tell you one more story. My husband and I did a pact with God, and we said that we would not use our credit card or line of credit or overdraft or anything. We weren't going to go any further in debt. So I had $50 in my purse, and that was what I was going to get: milk for the kids and groceries, and that's all I had. Well, our daughter was having medical issues, so I had her at the hospital, put her in her car seat, and I threw my purse on top of the car. And I put her in the car seat, and of course I forgot it there and drove off, right? So it traveled along and then eventually fell in the ditch. Well, I got home and realized I didn't have it. So now what do I do? That was our last $50. What do I do? We told God we wouldn't go into debt anymore. We prayed, and my dad and I walked the ditches, and we never did find it. Well, then I got a phone call that a business near the hospital, somebody had turned my purse in. Well, all my ID, everything was in it, but they had stolen the money out of my purse. So I was happy to have that, but what do I do? We never told anybody. We told my mom and dad, and that was it, obviously, because he helped me look for I go to church that weekend, and the treasurer calls me into the pastor's study, and he says, "Come here. So I went in and he says, and somebody handed me an envelope. And actually, I think it was $55. And he handed me an envelope, and it was the exact amount of money that was stolen out of my purse.
Oh,
And I had not told anybody. And it was just confirmation. He could have given me 100, but he didn't. He gave me the exact amount that was stolen out of my purse. And it just, I could tell you story after story, but I can tell you that God can be trusted and that he will supply your need from day to day. He just will. I am loaded full of stories. I write blogs about them. God can be trusted. So that's where I come from.
Well, I like the way that you added about the manna. We read with my kids. We were reading in Exodus about that, how he provided the manna every single day, and they were up to go out and gather it every day. And then some people, I guess, out of fear, decided that they were going to collect more and save it in case there was nothing for the next day, and then it turned rotten and had maggots in it, and, and so there's that lesson of, hey, you have to trust. You have to say, well, it's a couple of things. It's trust, and then it's obedience. And we talk to our kids about this. It may not look like it's trust and obedience to you when you get that instruction. However, that's what God is waiting on us. That's what we're waiting on other people for, is when we give that instructions. Do you trust me? Do we trust the Lord? And are you going to obey? Are you going to, out of fear or greed or whatever the other emotion is, are you going to try to hold it and save more and disobey? And that's what they did. They disobeyed. And so it was worthless to them. So then again, he said, you're only going to collect it for 6 days, right? And then, so again, they didn't trust him. They went out and they tried to collect it on the 7th day, when he said, hey, specifically, do not do anything on the 7th day. You're supposed to collect for 2 days on the 6th day. That way you don't have to work on the 7th day. They went out and there was no manna. So I think a lot of the things that we go through, and this comes up quite a bit in the talks that I have with people, the talks that I have on our shows, is that we have to focus on God. We have to listen to his instructions, and we have to trust him, and we have to obey him. However, when I say this, we are human beings, right? He designed us with all the emotions and all the feelings. Even though scripture tells us not to fear, that is a lot easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
And that comes with trust, right? So when we are looking at maybe not paying those bills, missing that, it takes a lot for us to say, hey, God, you're going to provide, because we trust you, because we're going to obey and do what you want us to do. So what happens if, we do miss that payment? What happens when we're praying and God is not answering that need the way that we think it needs to be answered?
Well, I also believe that God causes all things to work for your good too. Romans 14. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but I think you know what I mean. And he lets us go through trials. I believe that. And he's never left us. And, there was actually, you're bringing on another point. We moved from Canada to the US. And within 2 months after moving, we got hit with this horrible, horrible audit from Canada. And it was a wrongful, they accused us that we had not paid our taxes and that we needed to pay them $40,000. We had no money, none. I mean, we had up before moving, we had sold everything that we had, that we didn't actually have to, our necessities, just to survive. We had nothing. We had no cash. And so we went into this with great faith. Yeah. Well, God will fix that. No problem. So we go and I send everything I need to my accountant in great faith that we would it would work out. Well, only for him to turn around and say that they didn't accept it and that we still had to pay it.
Oh, wow.
So we said, well, something went wrong, so let's do it again. So our accountant paid him, and he does it again. And again, they refused it. And so then we were forced to hire a lawyer. Well, I don't know if you've ever hired a lawyer. They take their own amount of money. And we got to the point where $20,000 we had paid into fighting this.
Oh, wow.
And they said, you are correct. You do not owe it, but you have to prove it in court that you don't. Well, at that time, to prove it in court would have cost us more than what we owed.
Oh,
So
wow.
we ended up having to pay it. Now, that by then it was about 4 years down the road. And I don't even know how God did it, but he did. He provided little bits here and little bits there. But you know what? That was a faith trying time, because we believed God would do it for us, and for some reason he didn't. But in the end, when we came down here, and just to sum up the story here, God provided all that money miraculously from another direction where we never even thought would come. And we came out on the end on the good. And I don't even know how God did it, but it was a huge miracle. So, I mean, I know what you're talking about. We went through 4 years of we couldn't pay it. We were paying them just enough to keep them off of us and have a lawyer. And, no, I know what you're saying, but hey, God can be trusted. And he brought so much good out of that. There's many times, like when my husband's hand was cut, and that, there are horrible times. I wouldn't say I would want to go through it again, but yet I would never change that experience. I mean, you've gone through things like that too. You would never really want to go through it again, but yet you would never exchange what you learned from it.
Yeah. I want to go back to you said Romans, it's Romans 8:28.
Thank you.
It says God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love. Not sure which actual version that is, but
NLT is usually what I've quoted. So that's probably what it is.
Okay. But, you could look at that as like the tithing too. A lot of times people have some heartburn about tithing, and I will admit that we had too several years ago. Like, God, we have nothing. How are we supposed to tithe when, we really need to pay this bill or that bill? But it's about trust. It's about obedience. It's about stewardship. And it's scary. And then scripture tells you don't be scared, and you're like, but God, how am I not supposed to be scared through this? But he provides.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. As a young couple, right from day one, we have tithed. And not only have we tithed, we felt that God was asking us to do a whole 20%. And we've done that since the day we were, even through every of those experiences that I'm telling you about. We never, ever quit paying tithe and offering. And God has proved me now in this. He says that I will, no, he's faithful, totally faithful.
I find that interesting that you talk about that, because, some people they might say, hey, you know what? God understands we don't have the money right now. When we have the money, but it is all about trust. It is about obedience. And I just actually recently spoke with a friend of mine who said, she had gone through something that was burdensome, and, she had been giving over the tithe, which we know is 10%. And so I'm not sure how much she was giving over, but she was giving more. So she was giving abundantly. And recently she got some good news about how her situation was changing. So, God does honor that obedience and that trust, and even, that extra trust that comes with giving in abundance, because a lot of times, I'll be at a restaurant, or, you go somewhere and you see somebody and you say, oh, well, they need money. And like, how can I give anybody this money? Because I don't really have enough to do this or do that. And I don't know that, God wants us to do stuff in an expense of taking care of our family, because it does tell us that we are supposed to take care of our family.
Yes.
But we are supposed to be giving and to other people. And so I've kind of had this attitude that if I go through something and other people in the world look at it as being foolish, maybe it's blessing for somebody else. If you go to the restaurant and you give that waitress a $20, $30 tip, whatever it might be, and it's much more than it should be. I mean, provided your bill isn't several $100s, but you give them that tip, and you don't know how much it could bless them. It could be that thing that they needed to get them over wherever they are that night. So I'm glad that you bring up that generosity piece, because we don't look at that. We look at things when we're struggling as, how could I possibly give what is the bare minimum, much less more. And what is and I'm sure because you're really good about stories in the Bible, but the story of the lady who gave, what did she give, a penny? That's all she had. And all the rich people were giving, they were giving a lot more, but it was nothing compared to what they had.
Exactly.
And then the one lady, that's all she had, and she gave all of it. And so she was greater than they were, because she was given everything that she had. So, and she fell in favor with the Lord and was blessed because of that.
But, you can't outgive God. You just can't. I've never been able to outgive God, and I don't do it so he'll give me something, or I will have brownie points with him. That's not why. We give because we're thankful what he has done for us. And it's, no, you can't outgive God.
Well, the other side of giving is I feel like it's just as much for us as it is for other people, because he changes our hearts through that giving.
That's true.
So, through the being able to give in an abundance and to treat others well, we learn to be more like Paul, where we can go through these circumstances. And that's through the trust and the obedience that we have in God in whatever situation that we're facing. We learn to be like him, being okay with a lot, not okay with nothing, which is a very, very tall order, isn't it?
Yes.
But I would say that if we are seeking to be more like that, then we are more at peace in their hearts. So, if you had to give anybody some encouragement, because they are going through they are financially struggling, and they say, you know what, I've been tithing, and I've been praying, and my situation is just not changing, and I'm getting discouraged, and I know that I'm not supposed to be afraid. I know that I'm supposed to focus on God. I know that God is there, but I need help. I need help believing that he's doing these things for his good, like in Romans 8:28. So what kind of encouragement could you give for that person in that situation?
Well, I guess I'll tell you what I've done.
Okay. Sounds good.
Generally, if that has happened, I'll go for a long walk.
Okay.
And I'll have a straight talk with God. And this is the way it is, God. I don't understand what I might feel abandoned. I might even feel hurt, but I know you're real. I know you're there. And I'm going to trust you, but you're going to have to give me that faith. I'm help me. I have faith, but help me not to doubt, And then I would probably come home, and then I'd open up my Bible, and I would underline reread all my promises that where God has said that he would provide. And then I would pay my tithe and I would go walk forward. And I'm not saying that's easy. That's hard. That's really, really hard. But, faith, it builds, the next time it's a little easier, and the next time it's a little easier, and the next time it's a little easier. And maybe along with that, the problem might get a little bigger,
Yeah.
Like a $40,000 audit. That's nothing compared to an electrical bill that you couldn't make, But no, God will provide. He will. I got to throw in another little fun story. During that time, our electricity was about to be disconnected, and we couldn't make our payment. And I knew that. I knew I didn't have enough. So I went through the house and I grabbed up all the change that I could find. We had a credit union and we had shares. To be able to have an account, you had shares. So I took all the money out of the shares. And then at that time, I had done a little bit of eBay. So I don't know, I had $20, $30 in my eBay account. So I took all those things and I put them together. And then I went to pay my bill and put it on there. Well, so my mom went to pay my electrical bill. She went ahead of me. And when she got there, she asked them how much I owed. Well, for privacy reasons, they wouldn't tell her. So she was just stopped and she prayed, and she paid $170 on her account. Well, then I come along a couple hours later to pay, and I took my change, my eBay money, and the money that I'd gotten from the shares, and I pushed all that changed money and to the lady. She counted it, and together with the $170, it was exactly what was owed for
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's so
does
cool.
that give you goosebumps?
It's cool and it's stressful all at the same time, because you're like
is.
right on the edge of your seat until it happens, and then you're thinking probably to yourself, oh God, please don't make me have to go through that again. That was nerve-wracking.
Almost always it's on the last minute. So that he was the one that did it.
Yes. And that does take a whole lot of trust. And I am a runner, walker, get outside mover kind of person as well. So I find the time to talk to God is during that outdoor time as well. So I love the fact that you bring that up. Anytime that we can get alone, we're supposed to be still with God. Some of us have a difficult time not moving our bodies and just actually really literally being still. So I don't know. I haven't talked to God, but maybe that walking piece or that running piece is still a way of being still, because you're actually focused on God, as long as you're making sure to pay attention to the cars too, right?
Well, you know what? I think the still is maybe a still of don't worry, a still of emotions, a still of peace. Just be still and wait. Just wait. Trust. Lean on me. I think that's
so hard, isn't it?
But faith. If faith is a gift, we can ask for faith.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because supernatural faith, right?
Yeah, because faith is a gift. It's not from us. We can't do any of this naturally out of ourselves. It's all a gift that we can ask God to give us.
Yes, I believe. Please help my unbelief. I have to remind myself to say that on a regular basis, because a lot of times, what's been coming up for me specifically when I have interviewed people and talked to other people is this whole idea of focus. And I have another show that's getting ready to come out. My co-host Beverly Shoemaker and I are doing a show called Abundantly Rooted. And a lot of times she and I and others talk about this idea of being focused and where your focus is. And you constantly have to remind yourself where your focus should be. If it's not on God, that means it's on the circumstance. And when it's on the circumstance, that's where all the fear and the anger and the anxiety and all of those things come in, the worry. And that's what makes it a lot more difficult. And then when you start focusing on God and knowing that he is who he says he is, that he's going to provide, that's where you find that peace.
Yes.
But you have to almost do it daily. It's like that surrender. I have to surrender, moment in the moments on a daily basis. And,
Well, there's that verse, don't worry about anything, but pray about everything and ask God, and then he'll provide the peace. And, that's kind of a loose translation of that in Shawna words. But I don't know how many times I've had to, during those times, repeat that multiple times a day. It's true. Don't worry, pray about everything, and trust him.
Definitely. And I want to just tell the audience right now, just like Shawna said, pray about everything. Now, I know some people who are at a place where they say, well, I can't pray about this. This is too small for God. This is something that I should be taking care of because I shouldn't. It's almost like going to your boss. You take care of, they have that whole mentality of, I have to take care of all the little things and only go to the boss with the big things. But I'm just saying here to encourage you guys that God doesn't care what you pray for. No. At least in my experience, I have prayed for a parking space, which sounds really silly.
Or what I'm going to make for lunch.
yeah. So I remember being in a parking garage, needing to be at a medical appointment and having a little bit of anxiety because it was completely full and not being able to find a parking place, and praying for that. And then there it was. And so God does provide for the little things, the big things, and everything in between, but he wants your dedication, your focus. And he wants you to follow his instructions, which, are in scripture, and obey and trust him, and constantly do it, not just say, okay, here I am today, and then tomorrow go off the rails because whatever.
And if we do, he'll pick us up.
Yes.
And don't beat yourself, because it's not a merit system.
No. It's a relationship for sure. And, he's a forgiving God. He's a loving God. Yes. And, but we do put ourselves into places where we make the wrong choices. And so there are punishments for that. True. And we do have to go through that and learn from that. But I would say that he doesn't want us to, if that's why he gives us an instruction manual, right? So, Shawna, I really, really appreciate you being here on Faith Breathed Hope. Shawna is going to be with us this weekend in our final summit for Kingdom Women, Daughter of the King, talking about the Proverbs 31 woman. And she will be talking on Mary, Martha, and actually Dorcas in the Proverbs 31 woman, which I didn't know much about, to be honest. And so Dorcas is another name for Tabitha, right? Who is a judge.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she had, I think of her as knitting gloves and scarves and hats and helped people. She had a ministry of helping people. And and then she died, and Peter raised her up, because I think it's a real cool story.
Well, if you want to hear more about that, join us on Saturday, November the 13th. If you're listening to this Saturday, to listen to Shawna speak about Mary, Martha, and Dorcas, about how they relate to the Proverbs 31 woman. I'm so excited to have her there. And, Shawna, is there any last thing that you want to say to the audience before we go?
Well, what I say online, where I say on my website is everything, is God can be trusted. That's the bottom line. God can be trusted. And my whole ministry is about getting Bible promises out there for people to claim those promises. He's trustworthy.
All right, definitely. And again, that's what the scripture is. That's what the Bible is. You pick up this book every day. You read this book every day. You see mine, it's very well used. Lots of things in it, lots of writing. But it is a book of instruction and promise. And just like Shawna said, claim those promises. He did not just write them just to read them and dismiss them. He wrote the instructions for our protection, for us to make those good choices, and the promises for us to claim them and to walk in his favor. And so we ask that you would join us in reading scripture. And so Shawna, you have all the places, I'm assuming, just like everybody else, that we can find you on. Can you tell everybody where to find you?
Yes, I have a website, and it's ShawnaWrightArt.com is my website. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest. And I think those 3 places at the moment. So just Google my name and you'll find my art too. So Shawna Wright Art, if you just put that on Google, it'll come up with lots of it.
Shawna Wright Art. And I am so excited to have her join us again. And her art is quite amazing. It's beautiful watercolor, right? It's what you do is watercolor.
Yes, watercolor, and always has a Bible promise on it.
Yes. And we will definitely talk about that ministry as well. But for right now, I ask that you guys continue to be blessed and bless others. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Shawna.
Yeah.
Make sure to catch Shawna in the final Kingdom Women event of 2021, Daughter of the King, this Saturday, November 13th. Grab your ticket at kingdomwomen.net. And I want to thank you for joining us on Faith Breathed Hope, where you gain inspiration and motivation to renew hope and discover purpose in any circumstance. Please like and share this podcast and give us a review on iTunes. Be blessed.